Hello, my name is Sarah Rowcliffe, and this is Ginger. I've been training her for the past 5 weeks. She's a Shih Tzu and she's 4 years old. I've been training her with a clicker, and I found she's very motivated and excited to learn when there's food or affection involved. The first thing I had to do was condition her to the clicker because she had never been around a clicker before. Conditioning means immediate consequences of a behavior that determine whether or not that behavior will be repeated. I followed the workbook and I clicked 20 times in a row with treats immediately after each click. She quickly associated the click with treats and realized that a certain behavior led to a click and then a reward. The clicker was considered a secondary reinforcer, and it connects with the primary reinforcer, which are her treats, because a click means something positive will happen. One of the lessons she was taught was free shaping, which is any behavior that is performed naturally, and if I liked it, I would click and treat. Ginger did behaviors naturally without me having to prompt her, but when I wanted her to do them, I clicked and treated. The behavior I free shaped was sit pretty and high five. For her sit pretty, she would get up on her sit on her butt and put her little feet like this, and so I would click and treat every time she did that. And then when she got in that position, she would put her little paw like that, so I started to click and treat for that, and then added the cue for high five. So I'll demonstrate her tricks now. Come here, Ginger. Sit pretty. Good girl. Ready? Sit pretty. High five. Good girl. Okay. Next, we have to add cues to her behavior. So that means to add a verbal notation to the behavior performed, so communication can be verbal as well. How I added the cues after Ginger knew her behaviors well enough After Ginger knew her behaviors well enough, I added the cues. So when she was confident enough to do the behaviors on her own with no verbal cues, then I started adding the cues. So every time she did them, I began saying the cue I wanted to use as she did, immediately as she did that behavior, and then I would click and treat, and eventually she began to connect them. Next was partial reinforcement. When dogs get reinforced, sometimes for performing the behavior, but not every time, that's considered partial reinforcement. It keeps the dog working steadily. I only used this once Ginger was confident in how well she knew her behaviors. So I'll demonstrate that right now. Come here, Ginger. You ready? Sit, speak, sheep, your hand. Okay. Shake? No. Shake. Shake. Good girl. Other hand. Other hand. Other hand, Ginger. Other hand. Good girl. Speak. Good girl. Okay. The next thing I had to teach was targeting. This is when you use an item such as a stick with something to target at the end. It helps teach tricks, obedience, agility, obedience and agility exercises. I used a pen originally, but now I just use my finger and she touches the tip of it with her nose. When I trained her this, I waited for her to touch her nose to the tip, and then I would say touch, and then I clicked and I treated. I also played a hot-cold game that was explained in the workbook with 3 items, and I only clicked and treated when she went to the tape. Now she knows that tape equals a treat. So first I'll show you her touch behavior, and then I'll show you how she goes to the tape. Okay. Touch. Good girl, Ginger. Here's the tape. I'm putting it over here. Okay, Ginger, go to the tape. Tape. Come on, get the tape. girl. She still needs a little work on that, but she gets the idea that the tape means she gets a click and a treat. The next thing during the training was extinction. It means to never reinforce a behavior, specifically one you don't like. There really wasn't any behavior that she did that I used extinction for. Sometimes she'll whine for attention, or when she wants to get into the living room. By saying no, I still gave her the attention she was looking for, so I ignored her and eventually she would stop. The next thing was DRA, or differential reinforcement. This is a method for decreasing unwanted behaviors, and it's when you substitute an acceptable behavior for an unwanted one. Next was generalization. This is when your dog or animal is able to perform behaviors in a number of different places. I only changed from the living room to the kitchen. She associated the living room with treats, so it was kind of hard to bring her to different places, and I wasn't in the best area to bring her outside and stuff, so I only changed between the living room and the kitchen. So I also had to get her used to me standing up when I was telling her to do her behaviors, because originally I began down on her level. So I'll show you her spin and sit tricks in the kitchen. Come on, Ginger. Good girl. You ready? Sit. Spin. Good girl. Okay. The last thing she was taught was a behavioral chain. This is when you perform 2 or more behaviors on one cue. One of the behaviors, or the rollover, was a chain behavior. When I say down, usually she'll immediately go into her rollover behavior. And also her sit pretty is sometimes a chain because she'll automatically go to high five. Back chaining is when you only reinforce the last behavior performed. So now I'll go and show you her rollover behavior. Down, roll over. Okay. That is everything I trained her. There weren't many complications or difficulties during her training, just getting her to adjust to the clicker. Sometimes she seemed bored during the training, or she didn't give me all of her attention, so I just had to change my primary reinforcer and change the treats so she was more interested, and use toys and affection and just change it up. But besides that, everything went pretty well, and that's everything I trained her.